Hello everybody, Michael the Librarian of Magic here, finding and cataloging the magical and pointing you to it. I have another installment today of a review and recap of the latest episode of The Clone Wars, the final season, and it's at episode 3, entitled On the Wings of Keeradaks. And before I go any further, just a reminder that these reviews and recaps are spoiler heavy, so if you are somebody who's interested in avoiding spoilers, now's your chance to turn away before I jump right in. Okay? So, as I said, this episode was entitled On the Wings of Keeradaks. Keeradaks being, if you recall, the winged reptilian creatures that live on Skako Minor that have been tamed and purposed by the Poltec people. So, I wonder if this episode will have anything to do with Keeradaks. Well, it picks up, the episode picks up where the last one left off. We're still in the same story arc. Anakin and the Bad Batch and Rex have located Echo, and now they have to try to get him out of this tech union or techno union lab place facility. And when they find him in this lab, he's on all these machines. He's on like tubes of life support and this computer that is like operating his brain for him. He's like hooked up to this, and Tech and Rex are trying to figure out how to get him detached from that. And while that's happening, Anakin and the rest of the Bad Batch are fighting off all of these D-Wing droids. Those droids that I mentioned in the last episode. There's a whole bunch of them that are en route, and Anakin and the Bad Batch are trying to fight them off while they're sort of stuck in this facility. And they have to figure out how to get out of here somehow with Echo in tow. They were approved to go on this mission, but it's unsanctioned officially by the Republic. So as not to interfere with neutrality and stuff, which Anakin and the Bad Batch know that the Techno Union and Wat Tambor have already screwed up their neutrality, but the Republic and the official governing bodies don't know that yet. So this is an unsanctioned mission, and because of that, Anakin and the Bad Batch and Rex can't call in any sort of reinforcement from the Republic. So they have to figure out how to get out of here on their own, and they're being pinned down by all these droids while they're trying to figure out how to free Echo. That's pretty much where the episode picks up. So they're getting pinned down in there. They're still trying to figure it out. The droids report back to Wat Tambor and inform him that they've got the Republic Force, Force 99 and Anakin and everybody surrounded in this lab, and they're pretty much pinned down with nowhere to go. So Wat Tambor at that point authorizes the use of something called the Decimator, which is some sort of droid. It looks like a little floating orb, kind of like a probe droid, but basically it's this sort of combat droid that's capable of vaporizing organic life that's in the same rooms. That it like lets off some sort of explosion and just vaporizes anything that's alive. And he's authorized the Decimator to go into this room and take everybody out because they have nowhere to go. So the Decimator's on its way, but Echo, Tech, and Rex... Sorry, I have something weird here in my... digging into my back. Okay, got that fixed. Sorry about that. So Echo and Rex Tech and Rex figure out how to get Echo finally unplugged from this machine. And when they do, he's able to, talk and speak for himself at this point finally, instead of just being controlled by this computer. And he points out that there's a way they could escape this room if they go through this overhead exhaust vent that's through the ceiling, because he knows where there's like an exhaust system in this building. So he uses his before he gets totally detached from the computer, he uses his connection to be able to open the exhaust vent that's up above them. And then Crosshair the sniper wonders how they're going to get up there because it's like straight above them. And while he's wondering that, Wrecker, the muscle-bound heavy, just starts picking everybody up and tossing them up into the shaft. like Hunter and Rex and Echo and everybody. He's going to toss Anakin, but Anakin declines, and he says he can do it himself, and he does. He uses the Force to just jump up in there on his own without being thrown up there by Wrecker. Then Wrecker is the last person left down in this room, and he decides he wants to plant a bunch of bombs in there before he leaves to explode this lab and let, Wat Tambor and these people on Skako Minor know what he thinks of their lab experiment. So he sets up all of these, sticky bombs everywhere, and he sets them to go off, but then the Decimator is like right there en route, and just as it shows up to get in the room, Wrecker has to figure out a way to get up into the shaft by himself from the ground, and Anakin uses the Force to levitate him up into this exhaust shaft, and then he's able to get it closed off before the droids close in on the room, and then the Decimator explodes, and nobody's in there to get hurt just in time. So there's a big loss of machines in there and a big loss of research tech and all of that stuff. And Tambor is not happy that not only has he lost Echo, but then all of this research and everything has been exploded, basically. So then they're navigating the tunnels, the crew, the Bad Batch and Anakin and Rex and Echo are navigating this exhaust system. And Anakin wonders how, or Rex wonders or asks Echo how he knows about where the exhaust vent was and everything. And Echo informs him that when the Techno Union had given him implants in order to plunder his memory, it also simultaneously gave him access to their database, so he's able to know things that were implanted in his brain, like the schematics of these buildings and stuff like that. So then at that point, Anakin realizes if that's the case, then Echo must know an escape route out of this place to help him get out of here. And Echo says, yes, he does, but nobody's going to be happy with it, because basically the place that he's leading them to, it opens up on this sort of exhaust pipe that stretches out in between two buildings, the one that they're in and another building that has a landing pad inside of it, and they have to crawl out across this pipe, which is way stories and stories up above the ground. And it's kind of precarious and dangerous. Wrecker, the muscle heavy, has a fear of heights, so he's kind of going across it sort of weird. And as they get halfway out, the D-Wing droids show up on either end, and then they sort of pincer him in like a Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom sort of situation, if you're familiar with the finale set piece of that movie. They get pincered in with nowhere to go on both sides of this pipe that they're on. Crosshair, I believe it's Crosshair, the sniper, sort of loses his footing on this pipe and starts to fall. Wrecker momentarily overcomes his fear of heights in order to react and save his friend, and he takes a dive for him to catch him, and they both end up falling off and then dangling on this little piece that hangs beneath the pipe. So they're not even standing on it anymore. They're sort of dangling below, and they're in an even more precarious situation than everybody who's stuck in the middle between these droids. Well, Tech, of course, devises a plan to help get them out of there. When they were with the Poltecs, who had mastered subduing these creatures called the Keeradaks, Tech had learned that they used the Keeradak vocalizations, or the Keeradak calls, to communicate with them in a sense and subdue them. And he recorded samples of those on some tech device, and he was able to use his face mask thingy to broadcast the sound of the Keeradaks, and then he does that, and lo and behold, the Keeradaks show up, and beckon the clone force and everything to jump on their backs so they can fly away. So that's what happens. The Keeradaks show up sort of like the eagles in the Lord of the Rings, another nerd reference that you may be familiar with. And everybody that's on the pipe is able to safely jump off onto the backs of on the wings of the Keeradaks, as the title says. And they start to fly away. But what's really cool in this scene, which was sort of a jaw-dropper moment for me, is the D-Wing air support droids reveal at this point that they have the ability to fly, which is really cool. They sprout these wings. They don't just have like rocket packs or something. They sprout wings like the Keeradaks, that are built into them, and they were able to fly off there. And then this really great like flight chase scene ensues, in which the Clone Force and Anakin have to fight off these flying droids from the backs of these Keeradaks, and they crash them into mountains and shoot at them, and Anakin's got his lightsaber out and everything, and it's a really cool sequence. One of the things in the Star Wars universe that I'm the biggest fan of is all the various droids. I'm just a big droid person, a droid fan. That's kind of like my favorite Star Wars thing. So seeing these things all of a sudden have wings and fly off and chase these things was really one of my favorite moments in Star Wars that I've seen in some time. It was just really cool to see. And these D-Wing things in general, when they're just walking around and fighting, like in the buildings and stuff, they really look like dinosaurs almost, or some kind of big birds like cassowaries or something. They've even got like a fin on their head, sort of like a cassowary, or like um, certain kinds of dinosaurs, like that you may have seen in other movies. So it's a really interesting design. And then on top of that, that they have wings and they can fly around and they can like shoot while they're flying and stuff. It's a really cool droid design, and it was really cool to see them, and that whole sequence of the flight chase really notched this episode up in my book. But that's not the end. They are able to fly down successfully back to the Poltec village, and the Poltecs are impressed that the Anakin and the clones have subdued the Keeradaks. They're impressed that they were able to do that, but they're also annoyed that they seem to have brought war to their village and everything, and because they bring some of the D-Wings with them and they have to fight them off and stuff as they get to the village. And Rex makes an impassioned plea to the Poltecs saying, look, we broke our word, we brought war to this village, but we weren't trying to. The Techno Union were the ones that they claim to be neutral, but they're not. They've chosen to ally themselves with the Separatists, and they're the ones that have really brought issues to this planet in the first place. We're simply responding to them. He shows the Poltecs Echo and points to them and says, look, this is what the Techno Union did to our friend. They kidnapped him, captured him, and did all these torture modification experiments on him. And he tells the Poltecs, look, you're just going to have to choose, because the other people have already chosen sides, so you're going to have to choose whether you want to stand with us or not. And he's able to inspire them enough to start fighting. And then the episode, basically the third act or the finale of this episode, is this pretty big battle. Wat Tambor sends in reinforcements, a bunch of other D-Wings, to fly into this Poltec village and start fighting, and many Poltecs die in the process, and also many droids get destroyed. And there's this big fight that ensues. The Tambor and the droid side of things also deploy 2 Octoptara Magna Tri-droids, which are these big walkers. They look sort of like big spiders with a big spherical head on top. They almost look sort of like stuff out of War of the Worlds, where it's just like a big huge spider with a big eyeball dome thingy on the top of it. And there are 2 of those, and the clones and Anakin and the Poltecs go about trying to figure out how to destroy them. There's a really cool sequence where the Bad Batch is able to climb up onto one of them and like take out its eye, so it doesn't have an ability to shoot around. And then Anakin climbs up onto one of the legs and uses his lightsaber to chop through the legs so that it's off balance. And then he like does a backflip off and uses the Force to push it over while it's off balance, and he knocks the 2 into each other, and they fall down and become destroyed. And in the process, they also crush the remaining droid forces, the D-Wing droids that are beneath, and they basically win this battle. But it's a really impressive battle sequence to end the episode. So there's some really, if you've been waiting for some more action, as if the first 2 episodes of this weren't action-packed enough, the first 2 episodes are really sort of like, stealth encounters and sort of bursts of action. This one has like some pretty significant battles in it, and yeah, the flight from the building with the flying D-wings in chase, and then the big battle sequence in the Poltec village, both really really cool. Seeing the various new droids that have been deployed by Wat Tambor and the Skakowans were really cool to see. So after the battle, there's a little. It cuts to a little scene with Wat Tambor, and he's standing with one of his D-wing droids, who's letting him know they lost the battle, and those other droids were taken out, and Echo is going to get away, and their resources in the lab and stuff have been destroyed. And he asks Wat Tambor if he should notify the Separatists about everything that happened there. And Tambor says no, not yet. He doesn't want to notify the Separatists yet. He wants to try to figure out a way on his own to try to recover his profit margin. He's upset about the Techno Union losing its money and resources more than he is about the Separatists losing their tactical advantage. So he doesn't want to let the Separatists know what's going on, because they're likely to just go off on their own outside of the Techno Union's interest and try to maybe capture Echo, or fight him or kill him, or just kill the clone forces, or go to war in a different spot and chalk Skako Minor up as a loss. Who knows? But Wat Tambor has financial interests here with the Techno Union, so he's got other plans. So he's not personally done yet, and he's not going to notify Admiral Trench and the Separatists just yet about what happened. And then the final shot, the final sequence of this episode is the Bad Batch and Anakin and Rex and Echo are boarding the Havoc Marauder, the Clone Force 99's ship. And Rex tells Echo, "Hey, I'm glad I came for you." And Echo says, "Yeah, thanks for coming." Rex says, "That's what brothers do. I'm just sorry that it took so long to get to you." And they have just like a nice little conversation. And then Rex says, "Well, I'm glad you're back. Let's get back to normal. Hop on the ship, and things are you'll see soon. Things are going to be just like old times." And Echo says, "Yeah, old times," but he says it in a way that he is dubious that things will ever be the same, or that things will be like old times. Echo is clearly very changed, and not just physically, but everything about him has changed. He's his brain has been plundered, his limbs have been replaced, all kinds of stuff. He's got all of these ports in his body. He's just totally different. He's been through a really traumatic experience. So we'll see what that means. The way that he said the line was almost so doubtful or so dubious that made me initially think that maybe he's like, there's like a Manchurian Candidate situation going on here, like they've implanted him as a sleeper agent or something like that. I don't know. Maybe that's not true. Maybe he's just got maybe it's more like a PTSD situation, and he's just worried that he'll never be the same after such a traumatic experience. I'm not sure. But the next episode should be the last episode in this arc, so we'll see how it concludes. Our heroes, the Clone Force 99, and Anakin and Rex and Echo should be leaving Skako Minor. They were able to escape right at the end of this episode, or at least get on their ship. So one assumes that the next episode will pick up right where this one leaves off. They'll be flying away from Skako Minor, or at least trying to, and seeing where they go from here. So this has been a really interesting story arc so far. This has been my favorite episode of the three, just because it's cool to see the different droids and showing some new capabilities that I haven't seen before. That's the sort of stuff that piques my interest. There's some really cool, I think cinematically, the first one is probably the best looking and has some of the most interesting shots and things like that. The assault on those bases and stuff, that the Bad Batch pulls off with their different jobs, like the sniper shots and stuff like that, is probably some of the most impressive visuals in the bunch. But this one just has some of the cooler set pieces and action pieces, in my opinion. So that's why I really liked this one the best so far. So That was on the Wings of Keeradaks, episode 3 of the final season of the Clone Wars. Thanks as always for watching these. I hope this has been informative and entertaining. If you have any of your own opinions about these, please don't hesitate to leave them down below. Thanks as always for giving me a thumbs up and a subscription. And I hope you have a really great week until I do this again next time when they release episode 4 on March the 13th, Friday the 13th of March 2020. So until then, I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.